Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you the post-paid 2 connectivity right here. Still probably known about also, for take our pick, take your pick, as well as the way of, for how we want to go ahead and manage the job right here, for like if we want to call it maybe a chore or a task or something like that. But talking about right here of knowing about as well as knowing as for the sequel, but this activity right here I'll be talking to you about right here is talking about packages to, and as well as population, to where I'm sure if most of us here like for the American people can more likely remember the census, to where the last time I remember completing mine was back in 2010. So I don't know, maybe every 8 years or maybe 10 years that people in America or wherever that they would need to complete that the census forms. And basically that knowing about that as far as I know that those would be post-paid. It's like for postal paid, but on their hand, that knowing about really about every I guess every year that the state or federal government would more likely have the rules to where that that every 8 years, maybe every 10 years at the most. I would probably say at least every 5 years that they would ask everybody to take the extra few minutes to complete the census forms. And basically that talking about, it's like that the growing populations of the cities, and as well as like you have right here is like the city of New York right here. I went and added in some details right here of some people, and I can use the black or maybe the pen as well. I used a pen for most of this right here, but draw some people. And about right in here, but right here is like a little city right here in New York. But other than that, right here is talking about, it's like the population, to where that anybody who know them, that if they can remember that completing a census application, as well as that any type of forms, to where that the growing population of cities, if it's going to be maybe Buffalo, New York, or somewhere like that, or maybe parts of New Jersey, or maybe Baltimore, or somewhere like that, or Connecticut. But just thinking about right here is the flying bird as well. But the number of people that contain in the population, and thinking that for postpaid basically means that there ain't no need to pay for the postage. But I don't know. Let's say if 1 year, maybe by 2016, to where that they may say that thinking about that for what all that's required. But for the most part, it's paid for. But then on the other hand, if there's a time to where that if you were to go ahead and complete it online, and let's just say if there was an application fee that involved, to where they say that you'll get reimbursed. It's like, I guess if it's either not paid or you get reimbursed. But a lot of times, anybody that may wonder, just like maybe with the insurance companies, to where anything that more like they say that it says postal paid on there, but then now it's still asking for a payment, for an account for like a Visa payment. So more likely that they may say that just like maybe for insurance companies, to where that well, you go ahead and pay now, and then you'll get paid back. You'll get reimbursed from the company after about maybe a couple of days or something like that. But you have right here some examples right here, some people. I'm knowing about, if I want to go ahead and I don't know if there would be like maybe a UPS truck, and Merry Christmas everyone, by the way. But if there would be like UPS truck right here, is thinking about it, they would be doing a number of deliveries. I know I haven't been to those real big cities other than for Washington D.C. But right here is like a delivery truck right here, and let's just say there's a guy who's making deliveries on a truck, and thinking about for delivering the presents and stuff for the holidays. But then one of those could be, it's like knowing about for whenever tax season comes around, to where anybody that may wonder that for a number of people that live here in the United States, if it's going to be, maybe, New Jersey, or maybe if it's Connecticut, that I decided to draw this right here to where, number of people that I'm thinking that New Jersey, they probably have a population of about maybe 2 million people, and this way for New York City, maybe about 9 million people, and then Connecticut, maybe about 340,000 or something like that. I'm like, yeah, depending on what location it's at. But and then here I have right here is like a person, say, for Egypt, and knowing that I went ahead and drew right here as example right here of a building, and I'm like, yeah, that Egypt, just like talking about for like for anything postal paid, for like if it's going to be for nationwide. And I'm like, really, that for nationwide, I don't know if they do that to where that I'm like, yeah, worldwide, if talking about that if a postal paid service is paid for anywhere you go, knowing about, I'm like, anybody probably say that yeah, if there's maybe a few Americans who may be overseas, it's maybe in parts of England, or maybe if it's China, or if Russia, or maybe Spain, or maybe parts of it's like Germany or somewhere like that. So it's just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, I use right here as an example right here of Egypt, and thinking that I'm like, for the Egyptians, like for the pyramids, but let's just say that on average that for postal paid, to where that I'm like, anywhere it's like go is that if it's going to be overseas, to where that thinking that I'm like, yeah, that if it has something to do with something real important, such as maybe information that needs to be turned in ASAP, or something that needs to be completed, and thinking about, I'm like, yeah, it's like postal paid. But I would probably say like Egypt, that they may have their own way of how to deliver their the mail, and for what's paid for, but for how people are dressed as well, is thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that is understanding about the whole purpose about for postal paid, to where that knowing that I'm like, that some that might think about, well, there's still it's they're like, there ain't no excuses. Like, well, you gotta mail it soon. It's like, there ain't no excuses. Like, well, I keep getting told that the package is too big or something. So, and nowadays it seems like with the internet nowadays, to where that they may think about people who get online, that they may say that, I'm like, yeah, that you would not think that let's say for postal's paid, but then with postal paid envelopes, if it's going to be like, I can remember whenever I was in the 4th grade, I can remember doing the address right here, name for address. It's like knowing that for any type of a source of information that I remember whenever I was in the 5th grade, I may have said before, to where I'm like, yeah, that whenever I was young, I used to like to go and check the mail, but now since I'm old enough, I'm like, yeah, I think about, I'm like, yeah, being 31 is just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that I had my experiences to where that, getting something in the mail, and on it, as well as like in having mail, it's like, coming to me, it's like for in my name, and knowing about, other source of information, and just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that was most of the time with mail, though, that whenever mail comes to our location, and that anybody may wonder that for postpaid, to where if there's any kind of concern, to where that knowing about, I'm like, really, for like anybody say that what does take your pick basically mean? Basically means to where that anything, if you want some ideas, or maybe if you want a suggestion or something like that, take your pick of your choice, to where the job needs to be done, but then how do you want to manage it, to where that if you want to go ahead and use, there's different choices, and as well as quite a few choices. So basically that if they say that yeah, or take your pick, as to where that yeah, whatever options that you want to start out with. So if it's taxis or anything like that. But these examples right here are some documents right here for like for mail, for postal mail. And if anybody wonders that I'm like, yeah, that postal paid envelopes, I guess mainly if it's anything that's, it's at least maybe about about maybe less than a pound. I would probably say that at least 13 ounces. I would probably say, at the most. I'm not sure that nowadays with that most computer related products, if they had to go overseas or somewhere like that, maybe to North Korea or somewhere like that, or maybe if it's Germany, that there's a company maybe in Germany that takes care of repairs or something like that. If you had to send an old computer, maybe a broken computer, to the company, and what the cost, for shipping and handling, and knowing about, that they're like, well, we got the rule to where anything over 13 ounces is going to require, like, if we, if most of us have heard of it, to where if it's going to be priority mail. It's going to be priority mail, and as well as there's another kind of package that I'm sure that most of us are in, I think first class or something like that, first class mail. I'm going to put there and say for first class mail. So I have not worked at a post office, but I could probably think that I'm like, you probably say that, my teacher say, a lot of people say, well, guess. I'm like, guess for what you're assuming about what more likely that I've studied, to where I'm like, how this works. But I'm like, if I can guess, I don't know, if I'm right or wrong, is to knowing about exactly about what improvements that could be coming. But I can say that you have right here is like a little, electronic pad right here, to where that, whenever we get a package, if it's especially if it's going to be from your post office or maybe from FedEx or UPS or something like that, to where that they would have you sign like a little pad, little tablet it is, but it's like a little digital tablet. And thinking about, I'm like, yeah, does anybody might think about, do you remember the first time you signed it? I'm like, usually they say that there needs to be an adult, there needs to be somebody at least the age of 17 to receive the package. So it's like, there ain't no 13-year-old. I'm like, if and I don't know, I'm like, they may say that that a 13-year-old who answers the front door and be like, yeah, that I got a package here, that you need to sign this form, you got a package here that's coming from this address. And but on your hand, that they could probably say, Mike, that I don't know exactly all what more like it could be post-paid, but let's just say that if it's something related to school, to where anything that's going to be over 13 ounces, that more likely that they say that, well, it's more likely that if it's not for school related, it's not going to be postal paid, that it may be maybe half and half, that situation. But talking about right here is the number of people that more likely living in the city right here, is that thinking that like anything that more likely is post paid, to where like that means basically it's like there ain't no need to put a stamp on the envelope, and it's going to go to where it needs to go. But then one of the reasons why I'm doing this activity right here is talking about if it's going to be with the census, the United States Census, or if it's going to be maybe the state of for Omaha, Nebraska, Nebraska, or if it's going to be Los Angeles, California, or if it's going to be Nevada, or maybe parts of Mexico, or maybe parts of Canada, or somewhere like that. So it's like knowing about that, for the number of people that are more likely to live in a city, for the population, and thinking that what do we call that for whenever maybe if a package that does not get delivered. And I've heard that on the news, to where I'm like, yeah, that packages that were mailed out, which I guess that they worked it out later on, but packages that were mailed out about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then they finally got delivered or something. And thinking that, I'm sure that happens, but then on your hand, that I'm like, that, sometimes anybody that may think that, don't like getting phone calls about people that are blaming you for like, hey, we have not received your census form yet. I'm like, that they collect the information that they need to get, but then they're like, hey, you failed to mail the census form. I'm like, well, I remember it had a postal-paid envelope on. It's like that postal-paid card. That it's like that. Usually that they look something like this right here, to where that it's like something that says that no postal no postal stamp required. It's like within the United States, and usually that they say that just write down the address, and as well as for check if there's like maybe a checkbox or two associated with the return. But on your hand, that for any postal paid information to where that it's like if you say for take your pick, and as well as for census along with the premium, to where you have a number of choices. But let's just say that possibly in the next 3 or 4 years down the road, to where things go electronically, to where things are going to be working a little bit different, which that told mentioned before, to where that whenever I was young, that checking the mailbox, but then knowing about whenever you have an email, and especially if you're going to be getting advertisements or something like that, and thinking that a lot of things that maybe you're not used to seeing whenever for the first time using the service or something like that. But one thing that maybe we can also think about is like a few things, to where that whenever we get an email, that we may say that you use it for mainly for personal reasons, for contact with family and friends, or maybe for if you're going to be working for a small business. And then you think that you got it just because it's like now you got you have access to you first got a computer, and then now you got an email address mainly for anything that's coming in and out, maybe from a job or something like that. And then the next thing you know, it's like the insurance company's bothering you about, hey, please sign to receive electronic documents. So if anybody say about that there was once upon a time to where people knew what it was, but then it was optional, and then after about maybe 3 or 4 years, that it's like it's required, because thinking about that a lot of postal offices that I'm sure that they got plenty to keep them busy with on their hand, that for like what's required. And they may say, oh no, it's not required. They recommend it for security purposes, or if it's for training purposes or something like that, for how they want to say it. But on your hand, that you have right here are some examples. Right here are some documents, and with these documents, to where that that they ask for certain information. But let's just say that from the information that they do collect too, is to where that that let's just say that if they may say, you misunderstood the letter. The letter is only asking for the documents from the past 30 days. We don't need the ones from the past 90 days, or you were not supposed to include a copy of any type of birth certificate, or any type of any type of ID associated. So it's like anything that more likely that you send back to them, and thinking that that the more weight that you put on the envelope, possibly to where cause maybe a little bit of delay, to where wait a minute, the package is too heavy. But just thinking about, I'm like, that really, is it all about the fact about the time and weight, about how much the package weighs, or if it's about, really about how important is it, and thinking that really if it's for school or work purposes. So anybody that may wonder that, I'm like, that there was once upon a time to where that, somebody who was at least maybe 15 will probably think that, I'm like, that they were not even responsible for carrying a folder, or maybe a binder full of papers, to where that they had a responsibility to where they have until Friday to turn it in. But then on the other hand, knowing about, I'm like, for postpaid too, to where thinking about, I'll think twice. Thinking about, for take your pick, to where knowing about who's in charge of taking care of it, and as well as knowing, for how many people, how many, members of the family it's like contains, like, and as well as, for how many people work for small businesses. So if we'll be using people right here as an example, and thinking, I'm like, anybody wonders, I'm like, we're the children. But if there was maybe a few parents with a few kids, maybe right here. So let's just say that if I can go ahead and include maybe some children right here. and thinking that I'm like, yeah, that back whenever I was young, that I'm like, yeah, anybody who would check the mail and they would see maybe papers or maybe magazines or something like that in the mail, and like wondering about, oh, I'd like to look at the comics or something like that. But it's like, yeah, that and then they look at the comics, and then they'll say that they get, they may feel proud whenever they get a letter or something like that in the mail. But I guess the question is like, do they feel proud whenever they get an envelope, from maybe the Social Security office, or if it's maybe the postal office about maybe address change or a pertinent matter, maybe about children's education, or if it's about maybe from the school or maybe from financial aid, anything like that. And thinking about, I'm like, really, that well, there was a point in time to where I didn't know what this was, or hey, that knowing about, hey, that with the packages that you get, it's like, well, it's not postal paid, so it's like thinking that maybe the envelope's too big, you provided too much information. Really, is there such thing as too much information? But on the other hand, that back from the year 2010 to where I'm sure most of us can maybe remember, to where that was like the Census Bureau too. It's like there was about maybe every 5 years that they may need to collect information such as how old a child is and how old like as well as the address, location, maybe if you're a business person or something like that. So I'm like wondering that, I'm like, anybody probably say that, yeah, well, you only remember completing it 5 years ago and you don't want to do it again. I'm like, yeah. Just like your taxes, to where that some things that maybe you say that, yeah, well, I only do it for every year to every 5 years, and I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to do it every month. But there may be some things that maybe we don't have to do every month. So it's like, especially if it's the unemployment office or the Social Security office, to where there may be some things that maybe we had to do, every 10 days to every month, maybe every 90 days, or maybe once or twice a year, maybe every 5 years, it's more likely we need to do it. But then just thinking about it is like for postpaid, to where if they may say that, well, the pay online, that I was charged a little bit, and then that was just because the application fee, or maybe if it was because that the file attachment was too large, so I was charged. But I don't know if anybody may say that about that. Could we more likely see about maybe a dollar more or maybe $5 more on our paychecks, if it's like maybe a Social Security check or a retirement check, to where that if we were charged at one time for postal stamps, or maybe to take care of a postal fee, and wondering that, I'm like, really, I thought it was postal paid. It's like, well, it is, but then just to kind of get it all straightened out, to where that for postpaid, to where that either is somebody, it's like they either get reimbursed, it's like refunded if that one time that they had to pay it, they had to pay it out of their pocket, for that one time, but then they get reimbursed. So I guess that they say that really try to focus, and then say try not to fail about for best communication, to where if it's going to be from the post office, and then it's like any other source of information needs to be complete, because the way I think about though is that postpaid, and then the next thing you know, that there could be a problem, to where that it was forwarded back because the package is too large, or maybe the envelope. The envelope is 1 pound and 3 ounces. It needs to be at least 13 ounces. It's like just postal paid. Postal paid basically means it's supposed to be paid for anywhere it goes in the country, and as well as maybe for nationwide. But the way I think about though is like for the census, or if it's for the premium costs, is that thinking that you have a choice to either pay online or pay by postal mail, or maybe I say that really, I'm like, would it maybe cost more if you actually talk to a representative, and then they take care of it for you over the phone, and they may say you may incur a fee if you take care of it over the phone too. So I'm sure a lot of times that they may say it needs to be completed either way, but then on your hand, they're thinking about, I'm like, how much assistance do we normally get, if we were to get a number of documents in the mail by postal mail, and like wondering that really that if you got any questions, that there's a number to call. But then on the other hand, that thinking about, I'm like, really about if there's any type of error, mistake, or something like that, provided on the paperwork. Anybody say that? Yeah, well, somebody like me who has access to a fax machine, who has a fax machine, you all think about, I'm like, yeah, it comes with a postal-paid envelope, but instead you use the fax machine, or you use the Xerox office line or something. It's like thinking about, I'm like, yeah, well, you got it, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, we got it. And it's like, it's like if you're anything at all, you got it. But on the other hand, the way I think about it, though, is that, I don't know. Is it all the matter of fact? The matter is like if they got it or if it's correct. And a lot of times it seems like, well, anything misunderstood or something like that, like, yeah, what's better? What's much better? between, for if they got something or if it's correct. And just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that they usually say that, it's no false information, to make sure that all this information is accurate and true. But the way I think about it, though, is that that anybody more likely say that there once upon a time to where I could not guess how to give them an answer. There's once upon a time to where that a lot of this work right here, I learned it by volunteer work. I learned it just by volunteering, and now it seems like it's required to where that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you cannot complete this form without the postal copy, and it's like just to be able to mail this document that you gotta provide a code or some sort. It's like, but the way I think about it, though, is like if it's gonna be maybe a number of packages, a number of deliveries, and like thinking that if it's gonna be maybe the census or something like that, and wondering that I'm like, yeah, that for whenever it starts and stuff, it is thinking about, I'm like, really that for anything that more likely that we could be managing, of course, is thinking that I'm like, really that back whenever I was a kid, that just like check the mail a lot of times, and like wondering that if they say that that there is such thing, I guess, as getting a lot of stuff in the mail, but then one of those things will be like, that if anybody say, do you think that people would get blamed for just because something's not done correctly, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, one of the ways is knowing about, what are the basic two requirements for, taking care of postal paid, to where knowing about, I'm like, yeah, is it to check in and making sure everything's all right? Is it to make sure that you got the right envelope? Is it to make sure that you sign the back of the form, or provide any type of a sign and date situation, whichever it is? But the way I think about it, though, is like postal paid is to where post paid basically means is knowing about there ain't no need to pay for provide a stamp for any postal paid information. But then as well as knowing about, I'm like, yeah, as well as taking care of it, keeping the person updated as well. But other than that, talk about, say, for post-paid too, it's like connectivity. And if anybody wonders that, knowing about, you have right here, like a scene right here from your New York City, and let's just say if there was a bridge right here, and knowing about, like, that anybody that it's going to be maybe mailing packages or deliveries, and just thinking about for any the rivers that flow between each states. And the way I think about, though, is that for the most part, is to where any postal paid information that is provided, that you have right there is here is a building right here, but then you have right here is a bridge, and with this bridge, and then right here on the side right here will be like a river right here. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to remember all these rivers' names, but then one of them could be, it's like the, Hudson, I guess if it would be the Hudson River or something like that, or the Talia River or something like that. Got these rivers and lakes, and wondering about that, that guy right there, and it's like, that, like if I say that, for Liberty Island, and then you have right here is a river right here. And then that, the ones like it besides anybody say, yeah, between the salt water and clear water, to knowing about, be flowing on a river until you're thinking about, for which side of the river that contains, the most salt, and which side of the river that contains the most clear, refreshing water. So it's like, if anybody who's been like a fisherman is thinking about, be sailing and on the boats, and like wondering if it's going to be maybe in the Arctics or something like that, or maybe if Antarctica, or maybe parts of Greenland or somewhere like that. But yeah, right there's an example right there of a flowing water stream or river or lake or pond, and like wondering, yeah, that you got these number of ways is like think for postal pays, to where that if something is across river or down river, then how is it going to be delivered? The way I think about that, well, either between boats and canoe, or yeah, from back, look up the history about how people got their postal mail back at nearly maybe 1,000 years ago, or back past 300 years or so, that how they delivered letters. And I don't know, like anybody that may wonder that half the time if they use maybe pelican or like yeah, birds, like you see it on those TV, on those shows, to where yeah, that there would be like a scroll right here, to where a lot of times it was the birds that were be making the deliveries, and yeah, the birds, or if it's maybe not the honeybees, but let's just say if maybe the birds, or maybe if anything that more like that they had back then, to where how letters got delivered. But talk about it there, it's like for postal paid, to where understanding about the meaning about for postal paid, it's like the collectivity.